Hello. Uh, Today we're going to talk about early industrialization and romanticism. So, when we are talking about romanticism, it is very important to understand what was happening in the society by then, what was happening in England, what is the political scenario, what is the social scenario, and so on. Anyway, when we are embarking on this journey to understand the romantic society, romantic philosophy, and romantic poetry, uh, you know, one of the major thing which we need to discuss about is the Industrial Revolution. So, Industrial Revolution is a technological revolution. Uh, at least it started as a technological revolution when steam engine was invented. So when steam engine was invented and it was perfected, so it led to lot of changes in the technology. For the first time, transportation was made easier, and so there was the factory setups which were done, and suddenly mining became very important, and all that. This sudden change, one single event, the invention of steam engine. So one single event led to lot of these changes. In fact, they had vehicles which were, which used coal as its primary, fuel, and steam, and so it's a of course, we need not be the experts of technology. For our focus is on the society and the literature which was produced. So these technological changes which led to industrial revolution was very it made a significant change in British society, and from British society it went elsewhere, and uh, their society changed as well, majorly Europe and North America. So so the colonies of British did not receive that kind of an industrial revolution until very, very late. But the countries which were the colonizers, they could get this industrial revolution, and so their production increased, and so that changed the society completely. Even I mean, that led to other set of power dynamics. So a very complicated topic, but let's focus on how early phase of industrial revolution led to romanticism. So during the industrial revolution, of course, there was shift from, so earlier there was the things which were important but earlier shifted to the new thing. We are going to discuss what those new things are. But you get the idea, when there are factories are which are setting up. So when there are factories which are setting up, of course the society is going to change. So the way it functions is changing. Let us say there is a small town. The small town, the primary thing of that small town is agriculture. So agriculture is the primary occupation. Suddenly there is a factory which is installed in that particular town. So what happens is, the people who used to go for daily wage working, so they employ themselves in the factory, right? Suddenly they start earning more, and the people who were relied on agriculture, they have to upscale. They have to come up with new ways of harvesting, new ways of farming, without much labor effort. And when the industries are being set up, there is a migration which happens. People come there, and people settle there. When there are people settling there, of course, renting out the houses, so that becomes a different business. Then then again, the shops. Earlier, the shops might be very limited. There would have been two general stores in the town, and one you know one farmers market or something of that sort. But suddenly, when there is immigration, there are people coming from outside, living in the town. Suddenly, like the new requirements come up, and there are different shops which get you know which get set up there. So one single factory, one single industrial setup is going to change the face of the town completely, right? So similarly, like the face of the country gets changed when the industrial revolution was introduced. So industrial revolution, so it started in England, and some of the major things happened there was advancement in textile factories, right? Textile factories. So Britain was known for textile manufacturing. Manchester was very much popular for it, but they did not grow that much of cotton. So they got cotton from India, from Bangladesh, and from North America, and they made finished goods there. Because they had a technology where within a minute, they could manufacture hundreds of clothes, right? So that industrial setup they had came up with. So, and even when you transport the the cotton from India, North America, and make a cloth and sell it to them, it would have made it would be much more cheaper than making those things right in India or America. So so textile industry was set up. Steam power became very important, like so that is how the trains railway system got developed. Mining for coal and iron again became very important. And Britain, why Britain? One, because of accidental discovery of, it was not an accident, but it had to be accident in the sense, like so it's funny that it got invented in Britain, right? So steam engine could have been invented elsewhere, but it got invented in England. So that was fortunate for Britain for sure. Then like so Britain had access to natural resources like coal, iron, and all that. Then, of course, colonization. If they don't have something, their colonies would have it. Like get raw materials from these colonies, and get developed. So that was the mantra of Britain, and yeah, and so somehow, like their economy got very strong, and so when it happens, automatically a society would move from you know uh, agriculture to industry, right? So this shift from agriculture to industry had not just impact on economy, but also impact on human life, because agriculture, as you know, impacts every aspect of human life. So how a person look at the society is different for a person who take part in agriculture and a person who works in an industry to a person who works in a service sector. So this there was this shift which was happening at one side. At another side, urbanization. So the industrial centers, like again, it required a lot of labors, and people started setting up around it. And of course, from rural areas to urban areas, the migration took place. So that is a one thing. And second thing is that rural areas started becoming urban areas, when factories were set up in those areas. So, so urbanization was another feature, another impact of industrial revolution. Then another concern which got developed was labor conditions. Labor conditions in the sense, like industries, at least at the first phase of industrial revolution. So And the working system was very hard. So about 14 hours and 16 hours sometimes, people were made to work in factories. People were made to work in mines. So mining was it was a very difficult condition, and people were not compensated properly. And so there were many challenges in terms of working condition, and this led to a social reform. This led to people agitating that there has to be better conditions for people to work. And you read two poems of Chimney Sweeper. So how the writer is trying to draw attention toward the conditions of the children, there, Chimney Sweeper. So such a beautiful poem it is. So this was also something which was an impact of industrialization. Then there were some other social changes in terms of lifestyle. So as people start living in urbanized communities, as people leave agriculture and adopt industrialization, of course there are going to be certain lifestyle changes which people encounter. And the social class before industrialization was of feudals and serfs, right? So feudals are the landowners, serfs are the people who are not landowners, but they conduct the things. I mean, they conduct the agricultural activities. So that was how the social was constructed. But because of industrialization, there were the differentiation was not based on this, but based on factory owners and the working class. So so at least that was how it was in the beginning. But over a period of time, there was an emergence of middle class, right? So that is very, very important. Before that, there were only the landowners and the people who do not own the land, but they work for the landowners. So these were the only two, large classification of the society. Even among them there were divisions, but there were polars, like so either you are a landowner or you are working for a landowner. So either you are extremely rich, owning hundreds of acres of land, or you have nothing. So this was the case of society before industrialization. But after the industrialization, middle class emerged. So the skilled laborers, they started earning better, and they started, having a little bit of leisure, right? So this led to, the middle class, like, so they are not, they are not in the bad condition of that of serfs or slaves, or any other forms of lower class which were present before, but they are of course not as wealthy as landowners. So the middle class originated there. And of course industrialization led to the international trade and all that. But another major consequence which we can notice is the effect it had on the environment, right? So industrialization, of course, at the initial phase of industrialization, when coal burning was the primary source of energy, so air pollution was, of course, present. And it was suddenly, the breathing, uh, all this, so the things which comes with pollution were much more severe in England. So so that is the one of the major change which you encounter there. Of course, then how it led to romantic poetry. So of course, it did not lead to romantic poetry as such, but there were some influences. One, romantic poetry was very vocal about criticizing industrial society. So industrial society led to mechanization and people's life being mechanical, right? Mechanization doesn't mean that they had machines to work with, but their life became mechanical as well. And romantic poets were very vocal against you know criticizing this. So the industrialization, uh, and the things which it led to, it you know uh, to an extent it made people forget what is important in their life, right? So of course, there is a clear, you know, uh, clear rebellion against the industrial society, but also, thinking of working class. The romantic writers were very sympathetic towards working class. They were feeling for working class, and Chimney Sweeper, two poems of William Blake, Chimney Sweeper. So they speak about this, in a very straightforward manner. How, like, chimney sweepers, their children, and, how they are employed in these factories and, the houses and, all that. So, romantic poetry had a direct say, and, they had direct opinion when it comes to the industrial society. Then, to an extent, romantic poetry also had a nostalgia for nature. So, as the industrialization took place in some of the rural life, so rural areas which turned into urban areas. So, what happened was, like, the nature got destroyed. The natural beauty of the places got destroyed, and of course, the writers thought of how beautiful it was, and how it has become, right? So, for example, Westminster Bridge, uh, though writer is clearly explaining about the beauty of Westminster Bridge, you can feel that he knows that it is not going to stay like that. He knows that this beast of London is just sleeping. Once it wakes up, it is not going to be same anymore. So so there is that feeling for longing for nature which you find. Then industrialization and emotions and mechanization. Mechanization is automatic. It doesn't change. But that is not how emotions are, right? So the mechanical life, will not have emotions, but humans, have emotion. So this, this was, very much focused there in their writing. Then creativity. So again, machines are all same. Like, there can't be no difference. There can't be any kind of difference which you can find there. But in poetry, in creativity, you can find changes. So it is not uniform, and that is very important, right? So you can't have uniformity in poetry, right? So if all poems are same, then who is going to read them? So so that creativity was something which was not usual, and romantics adopted it very, very well, right? So then, some kind of, because, so these are the things which are mostly against industrialization. But one idea which romantic writers incorporated was experimentation and innovation. So this is majorly in terms of the forms. We have spoken about the form so far. How forms, as in, like, free verse was introduced against metrical poetry. How metrical poetry is constrained, whereas free verse is much more diverse, and free verse is much more. It gives liberty for writer. So this experimentation, uh, maybe maybe an effect of industrialization. So these are the major concepts which you find, and you know these are the major impact of industrialization on romantic poetry. Thank you.